Liberal Viewer presents.
So Tim Russert on NBC's Meet the Press has a gift for getting great interviews out of his guests, and last Sunday's interview with Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul was no exception, revealing a lot of thought-provoking Ron Paul positions, including this observation.
I think this country, a movement in the last 100 years, is moving toward fascism. Fascism today, the softer term, because people have different definitions of fascism, is corporatism, where the military-industrial complex runs the show. When they, in the name of security, pass the Patriot Act, you don't vote for it. You know, you're not patriotic America. If you don't support the troops, and you don't support, if you don't support the war, you don't support the troops. It's that kind of antagonism. But we have more corporatism and more abuse of our civil liberties, more loss of our privacy, national ID cards, all this stuff coming has a fascist tone to it.
Now, as a strong civil libertarian, I'm always sensitive to worries about fascism because the fascist exaltation of the nation over the freedom of the individual is an evil antithetical to what America's all about. But I've never worried as much about corporations because corporations just want to make a profit for their shareholders, which isn't really good or evil and certainly isn't un-American. That's why I was glad to see Ron Paul clarify the danger he sees from corporatism in this next clip.
We're not moving toward Hitler-type fascism, but we're moving toward a softer fascism. Loss of civil liberties, corporations running the show, big government in bed with big business. So you have the military-industrial complex, you have the medical-industrial complex, you have the financial industry, you have the communications industry. They go to Washington and spend hundreds of millions of dollars. That's where the control is. I call that a soft form of fascism, something that is very dangerous.
So, the soft form of fascism that Ron Paul's warning against is really about the corrupting influence of money on politics, and to my mind, that problem has an obvious solution: campaign finance reform. But real campaign finance reform wouldn't be like that assault on free speech championed by current Republican presidential hopeful John McCain that limited what people could say and spend. But rather, real reform has to get at the root of the evil by providing public money to run a competitive campaign to any legally qualified candidate for office who has some minimum measure of support. And those who complain about using taxpayer money to pay for political campaigns just don't understand the huge price currently paid in tax breaks and corporate welfare to the big-moneyed interests who are now funding the U.S. campaign finance system. But I want to know what you think. Do you agree with me that real public financing of political campaigns is the best solution to the corrupting influence of money on politics that Ron Paul was warning about? And on the more general question, is Ron Paul right that corporatism is a soft form of fascism representing the real threat of fascism in the United States?
I YouTube, you decide.